Just me, a place to be me, where you get to experience life. 'Cause life is a journey, not a guided tour. If you want the rainbow, you have to go through the rain. Free. Welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today as we continue our back to school series about helping and supporting our kids as they navigate the return to school this year. Last week, we had a very important conversation with Dr. Karen Roseborough of Terrell County Schools in Northeast North Carolina. And this week, we're going to continue that conversation with Dr. Roseborough as we continue to talk about the importance of extracurricular activities and how we navigate that struggle with homework and problem solving. So, without further ado, let's jump right into this conversation. I'm Miss Sasha, and I have a kid who's maybe in fourth grade, and my parents did not help me with homework. And I'm being told as the parent to step in and help my kid with homework. But first of all, we got this new age math. Second of all, we have these books that maybe I don't have access to. So how do parents work with their own limitations as far as academics and different things like that, but also expect to help their kids with that?
I love this question
because it's true.
I always have to tell a little story that goes along with this that I tell my families. My grandparents had 10 children. My grandmother had a 7th grade education. Mm-hmm. My grandfather stopped in the 12th grade. He got his high school diploma. And I was raised by my extended family. And my grandfather, he thought he could do my math homework. He really did, bless his heart. And he helped me with those problems. You know how he helped me? Sit down at the table, get your pencil out. You go ahead and get started, and I'm going to check it. Mm-hmm. That's accountability.
Oh.
That's how you help your child. Accountability. Be accountable for getting the homework done. And he checked the problems. And he even tried to act like he knew how we were doing the process. And I went to school that day and all those problems were wrong. But you know what? I was so proud of the fact that my grandfather held me accountable and that he helped me. I argued my teacher down that my grandfather was right and that she was wrong. It was the experience of him holding me accountable and caring enough that I had to get that homework done and that I had to turn it in the next day. And I had a teacher that said to me, Karen, I'm proud that your grandfather helped you with the homework, because she knew she could not, if she told me everything he told me was wrong, that would let me down. Mm-hmm. That would not allow him to help me with the homework. She said, I'm going to give you all a strategy for you to follow. She put the strategy on the paper. That's for you to follow and for grandfather to ensure that you're following the strategy. So the next day, all he had to do was look at the strategy and look for the strategy and the process and the steps. It's up to me to have the right answer. It's not up to him, because I'm the one that's in the classroom every day as the student. So, teachers, it's important to ask good questions. I tell all my parents, regardless of your background or where you come from, how much money you have, if you do nothing else but to ask your teacher 2 or 3 questions once a week, bi-weekly, once a month, you're the kid that stays on the educator's radar, because they know that call or that text is coming. It's just a question. Do they have homework?
Yes.
Okay, well, if the teacher says no homework, then say, well, do you mind if we had set up a system where I hold my child accountable for reading every night for 30 minutes? You give the teacher the strategy, because you're dealing with the new age of educators as well. And they think that some parents don't value homework, and then you have a group that values homework. So, the teachers, sometimes they don't know how much is too much. They get confused as well. But a parent that is holding the educational system accountable and holding the child accountable for being successful in school is how we help our children.
Yes.
So you don't have to be super educated or know those steps to the math problem. The kids been in school all day. They know those steps. They need to study. You have to create a safe space for studying. You have to be clear about there's no cell phone time and no television on. while you're working, unless you have a student who just needs noise in the background, but they're very studious about getting their work done. If you have latchkey kids, which most of us grew up as latchkey kids, the parent has to say, my expectation is for you to go in the house, get you something to eat, start on your homework first to get it out the way so you can do what you enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to talk about what you enjoy doing because they just got out of school. They may not want to dive right into that, but it's important for them to practice mindfulness as well. Get that 30 minutes or an hour to getting you something to eat, disconnecting from school, but have a time frame of when you expect homework to be done. You have to say your homework, I want you to do that homework from 6 to 7 p.m. When you
Yes.
finish at 7 p.m., you need to go upstairs and get your bath. If you create a schedule for your child or a routine for your child, they won't have time to watch television all day or look at a telephone because they're busy. Many of the kids have extracurricular activities if their families have the resources to provide it. So they're getting home late anyway. And that priority for homework is sometimes lost because of that extracurricular activity. That is why it's important to say when you get home, you're going to get a snack, you're going to start on the homework. We're going to start on it. We're going to go to our extracurricular. When we get back, I'm going to look over it to see how much you've gotten done. You're going to complete it, and then you're going to go to bed because they have to rest. Many
Yes.
times we see irritable kids and we see behavior problems manifesting during the school day due to a lack of rest, and people underestimate rest. But as an adult, you would react the same way in the workplace if you had a lack of rest. It will come out in different ways.
And
So that's
some,
what I mean by paying attention to your kid. That those are just things that you have to do that I really, it just doesn't cost anything to do some of these things.
it doesn't. And I'm glad that you mentioned rest because that's one of the things that I talk to about some of my clientele that I work with is how are you showing up for yourself and do you get enough rest? But that concept can also be transferred to your child. Does your child seeing you rest? Does your child see you resting? Excuse me. So, what does that look like? If it's bedtime and you tell your child to go upstairs, I remember when I was growing up, my mom told me to go upstairs, but then there was a party going on downstairs. So,
Mhm,
I'm
mhm,
not resting. I'm sneaking around the corner trying to figure out what's going on downstairs. And
mhm,
so then I'm tired when I wake up the next morning for bed or for school, excuse me. So you have to actually practice these things. And I appreciated some of the times where my mom did allow us to lay in bed with her and just go to sleep.
Yep.
And
Yep.
what because now I see my mom is resting as well, so I can't do anything but lay down because heck, we just all in this bed together, and she's not letting me do anything else. So I guess I'll just go to sleep.
That's right.
Um, okay, wonderful, wonderful. Another thing that you had mentioned that I want to dive into real fast is that concept of extracurricular activity, especially for our older kids. It is the Olympics are going on right now, and you have the gymnastics, you have the track, you have the fencing, you have the swimming, and a lot of these athletes had individuals who were mentors to them, who were holding them accountable for their routines, for positive engagement in school. And so, speak a little bit about how extracurricular activities can also help with academics and holding our kids accountable and creating structure and long-term success.
Mhm. Well, everyone knows that that helps with their endorphins, and having positive self-image and feeling connected to other people and to other things. But it also helps them with goal setting.
Mm,
And that the work that has to be done in order for you to turn that hobby into something that you want long term in terms of a career or to just experience success or know what it feels like just to accomplish a goal. So, I look at those extracurricular opportunities for students to just explore their interest, but also for them to develop their gifts and talents that they may not have known, that was a gift. And that's why I always encourage families to let students try different experiences in extracurricular, not just what they say they like, you know, especially I hate to keep using boys as an analogy, but or as my example, with the boys, especially African American boys, they love football or basketball. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, why is that? Why is that the only two sports we hear from our male students that are students of color, that they really do enjoy basketball and football? Well, it's a mental model.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they see. But do they know what it really takes to be a great football and basketball player?
Yes.
And so with my son, they do, I know it's like First Take, 30 for 30, where the athletes tell their stories
Mm-hmm.
about what they had to endure and what they had to go through. Okay, so they had to go through all of these things. But when you talk to your child that is aspiring to be those things, can they condition themselves to get in that mindset? And then they figure out, oh, this is really hard. This is harder than what I thought. What these, what these basketball players and football players, yes, they have value, and that is a notable career, but it should not always be the first thing that a child says that they want to aspire to be is one of those. You really want to expose them to other sports as well, because I might enjoy watching football and basketball, but it's not my sport.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I need to explore baseball. Do I know the history of baseball? Do I know the legacy of baseball for my culture and my community? Well, let me go out here and see what that's like. And and lacrosse and soccer. It's important for kids to have an opportunity to experience a variety of extracurriculars so that they can develop themselves as whole people and not be limited within their experiences. So I do tell families, make sure your child does have an extracurricular. It does not always have to be sports related as well. We have a lot of students who love to argue and talk back. And what I always tell to my educators is we have to figure out how to foster that, because that's a lawyer you're looking at.
Hello.
They have to understand the skill of debate and discourse and waiting to another while another person is speaking. Wait until that person finishes, and then teach them how to respond appropriately, and also how to appropriately advocate for themselves. Sometimes what we always see is not misbehavior. It's just a talent, a gift and talent that a child is trying to develop, or they want to get out, or they want some type of recognition for it. And we're not fostering that.
Yes.
So everything is, and all extracurricular does not have to be, athletics. With some of my students in Terrell County, we have the 4-H center in our backyard. We're the Eastern Center in our backyard. And one of the things I enjoy seeing my students here in Terrell County do, especially my students of color, I'm just floored by their knowledge of agricultural science and canoeing and doing science in real time. That's what they do. This is part of their habitat. This is how they live here. Mm-hmm. And I often said that, well, 4-H is all across North Carolina, but it's not prevalent. I love 4-H is free. Mm-hmm. It allows students to explore their gifts and talents. And not that I'm trying to give them a plug, but I wish that my mother would have known about 4-H, because it's self-motivating. Mm-hmm. They can get on there and do projects and compete on their own for free, but they can dive into whatever their gifts and talents are through that organization. So I would say families need to look for things like that to help foster love for reading, foster love for the arts, foster love for athletics, until they figure out exactly who they are and what they enjoy doing. But they have to have that outlet. They can't just go from school to video game and phones. I mean, they just can't. They've got to be well-rounded, understand the spirit of teamwork, the spirit of self-development, self-responsibility, and holding themselves accountable for their goals. Mm-hmm. What is it that I want to accomplish? That's what I see in terms of what extracurricular can do for students.
And I love how you mentioned the 4-H because Black agriculture is coming back up on the rise. There have been a lot of studies that have indicated that it's very lucrative,
Mhm.
becoming very lucrative again. But you have to also remember that historically speaking, um, Black sharecroppers,
Yes,
Black
yes.
farmers, that was always a thing. And so
Mhm.
even though as history has shown that we've gone into this industrial revolution, we also have to remember where the roots are, with the
That's right.
soil, with the earth. So absolutely, it is definitely coming back into a trend, quote unquote.
It
So
is, and I'm glad.
yes, yes, we got to get our young people ahead of the curve. So
Mhm.
I definitely appreciate that. One of the another thing that I had wanted to just point out that you had said was, even if our kids, with going back to school, even if our kids are not excelling at any of the extracurricular activities that they are trying, that doesn't mean that we take them out. That doesn't mean that we negate the fact that they aren't trying. And so one of the things that I like how you said was that parents, we have to allow our kid and encourage our kid to commit to something, even if they don't do it well. At least they're trying, because that helps them continue to motivate themselves and say that, hey, life isn't going to always give us the things that we want. We may not be good at, and so we have to try different things, and it's a learning process. And so by allowing your child to even um, not even maybe not even being contingent upon their behavior. And well, if you're good, then you get to do this extracurricular activity. It's not a tit for tat type thing. It is,
Mhm.
this is something that we're going to do. So
Mhm.
it may be that because I can remember me trying different track, trying soccer, trying cheerleading, trying softball, and trying art. And those were all just different things that I can remember my caregivers motivating me, supporting me with, and encouraging me to do, regardless of whether I excelled at it or not, because I was able to then say, all right, this is not something that I enjoy doing. So let's try
Mhm.
something else. But that's the process of growing up. And that's okay. It doesn't,
Mhm.
sometimes it can be costly, but it doesn't always have to be. So just being able to work with your child as they go through that ups and downs of learning.
That's right. That's right.
So awesome. Dr. Roseborough, any final thoughts that you would like for us to, the parents to kind of plug or take out from this conversation?
Well, yes, we are all excited for the 24-25 school year. And I just want the parents to remember that none of us have all of the tools to support our children through the journey of life. And it's okay. It's about growing and learning together. But having those conversations with your children are important. And even when you think that they are not listening, they are truly listening. They do remember things that their family members have told them. And it's important for you to trust that they will apply those things when they are away from you. We do get to see those things in practice, but it's important to help your children develop character and not just being, be present, teach them how to be present. Being present means engaging with others and learning through others and learning about different perspectives in a very respectful manner. And the only way that they can do that is by practicing in the home.
Yes.
And it doesn't cost anything, but make sure that your child see you reading, not just reading on your phone, but
Hmm.
actually reading something in your hands, whether that's a magazine or a book. But help us to help children foster a love for reading because it's important for them to be able to decipher information and to also make sure that they foster that love for reading, but they make time out to learn more about those things that are interesting to them and not just what they read on the internet that may be fake news,
Hmm.
or it may be, something that can be harmful or hurtful to them in their psyche. So it's important for you to make sure that you get some books and newspapers etc., or print them out. Print out the news article and have that discussion as a family about, let's read this, let's see what this is about. It would just floor your kid to know that you actually want to engage in reading as a family. Let's have a discussion about this. And I think that will go a long way. So those are my nuggets for all the families out there and students. And just remember, it doesn't hurt to keep them accountable. It will only help.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Dr. Karen Roseborough. And until next time, everyone, take care of yourself so that we can all take care of each other. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Just Me Therapy podcast. If you are seeking further one-on-one diagnoses, interventions, and treatment plans, please consider scheduling an appointment with an individual counselor at Journeys Counseling Center, located in Greensboro, North Carolina. Journeys can be reached at 336-294-1349. The mission of Just Me Therapy podcast is to use authentic conversations to uplift one's mind, body, and soul. The goal of Just Me Therapy is to offer affordable education and insight to individuals who experience financial barriers to accessing individualized behavioral health care services. With that being said, the information, including opinions, advice, and recommendations discussed in this podcast, are intended for individual, informational, and educational purposes only. Such information is not intended to substitute the recommendations of your own licensed therapist or healthcare professional. Although we are licensed behavioral health professionals, we are not your licensed behavioral health professional. As a result, the advice mentioned on this podcast should not replace the recommendations offered by your own qualified health professional.